This summer marks an exciting milestone for WCCO television. We first went on the air July 1st, 1949. That's 75 years ago.
Over the decades, we've had the incredible opportunity to witness history, help shape our community, and share your stories.
For the next hour, we're sharing our staff's reflections of WCCO's legacy and impact across Minnesota and beyond.
We hope you enjoy some of the behind-the-scenes moments you didn't see on TV.
We're good to go.
I can't think of two better people to do this with than you two.
You guys got everything in focus?
Uh-oh, I'm scared. It's real now. I don't like to do this.
You're among friends.
All right, here we go. Let's give it a try. Okay. All right.
Whenever you guys are ready.
Okay.
All right.
Just one.
All of us.
WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Serving and informing the Twin Cities for 4 decades. This is WCCO Television.
From WCCO Television, the community's first choice for news in the 90s.
This is WCCO 4 News, the hometown team.
This is WCCO 4 News.
What are we talking?
Major news stories.
Major news stories.
They've all been talked to death.
East Berliners now coming through the latest opening in the wall. The soldiers standing aside and watching them go.
Da 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 da.
It's a little crazy here. What can I say?
Right now, there's breaking news out of Washington, D.C.
3,
2, 1.
When your watcher is ready.
That's it. Title number 4 for the Minnesota Lynx dynasty.
Dozens of people are here in Chanhassen, outside of Paisley Park. It's become a healing space for many of Prince's fans.
The lowest temperature that it got to overnight was minus 55 degrees. The warmest, minus 35.
Steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side. Caught by Diggs. Stay up. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. 30. No. Touchdown. Are you kidding me? It's a Minneapolis miracle.
The governor's stay-at-home order goes into effect tomorrow. The National Guard says we need to take extra precautions every time we're out in public, like the grocery store or the gas station.
Today, in an unprecedented move, the Minneapolis police chief fired 4 officers involved in the incident.
Jacob Wetterling pops into my head. Like, that's one of the first ones that does, and especially when they arrested Daniel Heinrich and all that went down, because after all these years, there was like a closure.
Jacob was abducted while riding his bike with his brother and a friend.
He grabbed Jacob and then he told me to run as fast as I could into the woods or else he'd shoot.
There's no explanation. I don't feel the anger yet. I just want him home.
And remember, 1989 in October was when Jacob Wetterling was abducted.
Another big story.
So for the entirety of, or a large part of our careers, that was a constant story. What happened? Where's Jacob? The search for Jacob. Joe and I were there when it happened,
The first day.
covering that, and we covered it on the day he was discovered, or his remains were discovered.
It was actually absolutely stunning to try and process. How do you shift your head from hoping and searching and to now knowing that that he wasn't alive.
And that's one of the stories that just hits you. You know, as a parent, obviously, it just, you can't get it out of your mind. You can't move on. And the Wetterling family and Patty Wetterling, over the years, the grace and the power that she had to hold up and do interview after interview after interview is something to behold.
The only time I wished I was back on the air was right then.
Yeah. I bet, because you covered it from the beginning.
Yeah, I covered it from the minute he disappeared, and all the years in between, the ensuing years.
You know, it's not just Jacob. There have been other kids that were missing and in some cases never found, or at least not yet. So those are always the hardest for me to cover too. I don't know about you guys, but some of that
Doesn't
stuff
get
is
any
really
worse.
difficult. Yeah.
For 88 days, I have stood before you and said we would work tirelessly to bring Jayme Closs home. Today, I can report we have done just that.
It is from the moment of Jeffrey Trail's brutal murder that one of the most profound mysteries of Andrew Cunanan's bloody rampage begins. Investigators say Cunanan and Matson spend the next 5 days together. The first 2 of those days inside the apartment with Jeffrey Trail's decaying body.
But they now believe that Matson was being held hostage with a gun Andrew Cunanan had stolen from Jeffrey Trail. It was a gun Cunanan would use in all the other murders.
And I've had lots of big stories. Me and you at Hurricane Andrew,
Do you remember that?
Yes, I certainly do.
This is truly a tragedy of epic proportions, a tragedy made up of hundreds of thousands of individual stories of loss, pain, suffering, and continued hardship.
You go back to the hurricanes and the weather events here in Minnesota, which were incredible, from floods to tornadoes to blizzards, just crazy stuff.
My mind goes to a couple of tornado events as well. One of them is the December outbreak that you and I were covering almost incredulously, like,
is this happening?
Is this happening? And
December.
I do remember that forecast, which was not just our forecast, it was the Storm Prediction Center's forecast. It was solid, but it got started very slowly.
Loud noise happened, and sirens went off. Went down the basement, just a loud bang. Everything went quiet and dark, and come out and the garage is gone. Right there where the truck is sitting, it was a 2-car garage. Heated everything, and it's all down there, down the block away.
When you see the destruction, it's clear. North Minneapolis took a direct hit from a tornado.
But I think about the North Minneapolis tornado.
Yeah, I heard the siren, looked out the window, and the tornado was right there. Or at least there was debris flying through the air and spinning.
And I just remember it was so devastating, but it's so inspiring because so many people came together to help each other. And people were coming out of their houses and moving trees and moving things out of the way for the older people, making sure the kids were okay. It was a true sense of community at that time to see that. And it was special to cover that.
I do think of Paul Wellstone.
We never really had all the money, but I had you.
One of my favorite memories is Amy Marsalis walking down a back hallway with Paul Wellstone, who at that point is this guy going to pull this off? And she said, it sounds like you're ahead. It sounds like you're winning. And he goes up on the podium and says, WCCO just says that I won. And I said, well, it's a little bit more than what we said, but.
Our exit polls show that you have won.
Is that right?
53-47 is what they're telling me.
Okay, well, that sounds pretty good.
And I covered politics for many years, including Paul Wellstone, his rise, his popularity, and then his tragic death.
FBI agents from Duluth went immediately to the Eveleth crash site. They were on the scene as the rest of the world was learning of the tragedy.
It was after Senator Wellstone's plane went down, and Vice President Mondale was kind of thrust into with a week left in the election. And all of a sudden, it was like it was a whole flurry, because now the whole presidential election.
And the American dream lives on in Minnesota, because we shocked the world.
We have Jesse Ventura coming out of nowhere, a wrestler who is now our governor.
Oh my gosh. So this is crazy. The one story that sticks with me, because it was such a big deal, like nationally, outside of George Floyd and everything else. But the Mall of America opening was huge.
Tomorrow, when the Mall of America opens, there are going to be 270 stores to look through.
You better shop around. You better shop around.
It was huge. We did not go to the Mall of America for at least 3 to 4 months after it opened.
Really?
Because it was so busy all the time. You couldn't get in. Like the exit off 77, you couldn't get in. And this was around the time that people were worried, oh my gosh, if I go to the mall, I'm gonna lose my car. I'm gonna get lost parking at the mall, you know? It was just one of those things, it was such a spectacle that everyone wanted to be a part of and everyone wanted to see.
No, I have to imagine that your travel is much more
Well, I did a lot of field
exotic
work.
and all that
Yeah.
than my travel.
Romania comes to mind.
Yeah, that was a great story.
This one was almost lucky. She has AIDS, and a family had agreed to adopt her, and the last hurdle she had to pass was the AIDS test, and that's when they discovered she had AIDS.
The iron crib. I still hear, Frank and Amelia, I still hear from people, not only think, well, we remember the iron crib. He said his name, Nick. It was Nikolai. He was one of the kids that were adopted by Minnesota families and raised here in America, schooled here in America. And he wouldn't have been alive, he said, if it wasn't for our story. Now, you can hear compliments your whole life. But very seldom you hear a compliment like that. Your story saved my life.
Well, it's starting to hop down here in Atlanta, just a day away from the Super Bowl 53.
You and I went to Atlanta. It was the Patriots and the Rams. We did 18 stories, 18 live shots. Not a script was written.
Here at FanFest, there are a number of displays, but the one that gets the most attention has to do with a football.
You just said you wrote. That's right. We just rattled off. We didn't get flustered or anything. Like, we were exhausted. We were done. But it was 18 stories in 3 days, 18 live shots.
Take your shot. Why did I go into sports reporting instead of being a quarterback?
Well, I said I was in a story just a couple of weeks ago where the guy we were going to interview, he said to John Lawrence, I was working with John Lawrence on Finding Minnesota, and he said, I'll do the interview, but I'm not going down to the site because it's too dangerous. And John looked at me and said, should we go down there? And I'm like, well, John, we got to go down there. That's the story.
That's where the story is.
So that's been my whole philosophy. Everything. There's lots of things I've done I didn't want to do. I've only turned down one story in my career, and that was a bat house because I ain't playing with no bats.
In kind of the ultimate of recycling projects, we kept the old steam generator over there and make electricity on that second cycle.
So in effect, you get 2 bites of the apple.
Absolutely, that's right. That's right. It's tremendously more efficient than either just burning gas for electricity or burning coal for electricity. You're capturing the waste and making it into more power.
You know, it's not crazy, but now, and then how many years ago was that? And now all the stations, all the networks have somebody covering climate change, the environment. Like that's a beat, you know, and the constant stories. And back then, it wasn't that common.
No, you were ahead of the curve.
Our state fair is a great state fair. Don't miss it, don't even be late.
I think CCO did the state fair better than any station in town.
Tonight from the Minnesota Fairgrounds in St. Paul, it's State Fair Live. And now here are your hosts for the evening, Pat Miles and Bill Carlson.
Good evening, everyone. What a rowdy group, huh?
Can I have a sip of your beer anyways?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Can I just keep this?
Yeah.
Or?
I'm standing here at the newest concession on the Midway. It's called Leapfrog.
Feel a 40.
All right, I'm going for it.
Oh, look at him go.
Quit touching the
food, Amelia. Oh, come on.
Oh, no!
Right on me.
Boy, I'm full just watching all that food.
I have very good memories with the bleachers and great crowds and just having fun.
Mr. Shelby, your time has come. And after all, this tradition is called Dunk Don.
Shelby, you want him?
Rosie got it!
I'm kind of glad I missed the dunk tank.
We should bring that back for
Oh, gosh.
Come
Here
on.
we go. Well, we got to wrap it up.
And we were in some pretty intense situations where we had some really big flames really close.
Well, early on in my career here, the Boundary Waters, the fires up there. And in fact, the fires were such a big story that one of the photojournalists and I, Chris Cruz, the one you work with quite a bit, went through firefighting training.
But if you're doing it all day long and you rest that hose on your shoulder, then you're not going to get, your arms aren't going to get as fatigued.
I mean, it was a full, intense week.
I feel okay, I'm just hot.
Tired.
And I'm losing some feeling in my arms. But otherwise, feeling okay.
It was tough, but really nothing that would compare to a real fire.
Good job.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm going to Disneyland.
But I guess what I remember to my grave is the St. Peter tornado of 1998. We had 14 tornadoes in late March that year. I think it was March the 29th. Comfrey got an F4, about as big as they get. St. Peter got an F3.
Amelia, it is really something to see. And even more amazing is that there was only one death in all of this.
Somebody called and said they need me. Oh, we need you. We'll celebrate the birthday tomorrow, but this thing the tornado has just hit St. Peter, so I got to go. I have got to go.
You can't go to the scene of a tornado without being affected, especially the one that sticks in my mind is St. Peter. All these trees are gone. There are boats from the marine dealer up in trees half a mile away. It was just, that whole town was transformed.
And that was in March.
It was in March.
Which was odd for tornadoes.
Earliest tornado I've ever remembered.
Yeah.
There are so many stories, and they're special in so many different ways. And you don't know, in many cases, until later, how important and how special they really were.
I do remember back in the Halloween blizzard,
Do you?
it was impossible.
There a blizzard on Halloween in '91?
I stayed in. It was too slippery.
So it's snowing and wet and below freezing. Does that stop kids from going for that sweet stuff?
They're waving.
It takes more than a Halloween storm.
Can I say something in defense of the Halloween
Sure.
1991 weather forecast?
Yes.
Where we got, 29 inches over 3 days? I remember the night before we all realized the storm was going to stall over Lake Superior, I was going on a limb saying 3 to 6.
Side streets are another story. Everyone is trying to dig out.
This is terrible. I can't believe it.
How many times have you been out shoveling so far?
3 times last night and then twice already today.
And as you might imagine, I got a lot of feedback for that forecast.
Good thing there wasn't social media.
It was bad enough just with people calling into the front desk. But each one of those, I politely said, well, we did get that 3 to 6.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. A little bit more.
I missed it by that much. But I'll tell you what, people here told me, they told our family, oh my gosh, you missed it. You missed the snow event of 1991. Oh, it was crazy. The kids had to have their jackets on with the Halloween buckets. Oh, it was a mess. Oh, yeah.
We've been driving around St. Paul for some time this morning. Downtown St. Paul, not a lot of cars out.
And that's terrifying, driving when you can't see the road.
Okay, so we're telling everybody, all right, there's a blizzard coming. This is DEFCON 4. Do not go outside. Stay home.
But then we go.
Cheney, you're out.
I remember that horrible year. It was 2010. And we showed up in Wadena 30 minutes or so after this tornado came through. And I will tell you, just the look of shock on people's faces. They didn't even know what had happened because it was street after street after street, and homes were leveled.
I really noticed that outstate Minnesota, when you show up and you're from WCCO, they know it, they watch it, they've seen all the newscasts, and it's incredible. I mean, it really has opened doors and continues to open doors just representing WCCO.
It's always amazing that we go into those communities at the worst times, and they still welcome us as CCOers. There's something special about the station, something special about our reputation and how we are a big part of the community, that they open up their hearts to us.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
You know, because like you said, like these are people like on their worst day of their lives a lot of times.
This is breaking news from WCCO 4 News.
We're following a very serious story right now. It appears the bridge that goes over 35W has collapsed. We understand there are several people and cars in the water.
The scene is pretty unbelievable. I'm looking at a huge fire. It appears a tractor trailer is on fire here where this part of the bridge collapsed.
DeRusha and I were like the first ones there. They first said it was a real hot day, and they said the bridge had buckled. You know, somehow when it's really hot, the roads will buckle. And Jason and I got there right away, and I was like, this is a little more than a buckle. And it was quiet, just dead silence.
The image of that bus clinging to that sloping cement slab is one that will stick with all of us, I think. All those kids that got out safely from that bus.
I still can't believe myself that we were in there.
I was so scared.
Plunging while riding in a bus now haunts the youngest of minds.
You just see that gaping hole.
Or you see that school bus.
Or you see the school bus, yeah. Like you think about images that are seared in your mind. Would you say that's one of those images that,
Absolutely.
I mean, it takes you right there?
That was a crazy month. That was the month you had the bridge collapse, and then you had those devastating floods down in southeastern Minnesota. I don't think I've ever worked so many hours in my life in that month of August 2007.
To me, in 1990, was when Gorbachev came to town. To me, that was the biggest one, I think, because for all my life growing up, there was the evil empire. Gorbachev comes to our city, came to St. Paul, beautiful wife Raisa came, and, like I was saying earlier, it just started this wave of national stuff.
Do you believe in miracles?
Well, 1980 Olympics will always top my list when I get asked all the time, what was the best event, greatest event you ever covered? I said, well, I was there for the Miracle on Ice.
The first time I arrived at CCO was in 1989, May of 89, and it was like hit the ground running because it was a summer where the big stories just kept coming. That was the Tiananmen Square crackdown in Beijing. We went to Chicago to cover the big protests there with the University of Minnesota students.
And 91 was the most incredible sports year. The Twins went on this long streak, like they are now.
Yeah, they won 15 in a row.
And then the U.S. Open.
Right, when we had the Super Bowl, the Final Four, the major golf tournament.
Right.
Just before that, Stanley Cup.
The North Stars went to the
Stanley Cup finals.
And then the Twins won the World Series in that same. That was incredible.
And then the Twins find themselves in the World Series.
Then we had a Final Four come through here.
Final Four. Art, remember you and I went to the Final Four just as spectators.
There was a summer special, the only one that's ever had here.
And then it kind of was wrapped up with a Super Bowl at the Metrodome, all within.
And not too long after that, an NBA All-Star game.
Yep.
All within a 14-month period.
It was unheralded. I mean, unprecedented from the state of Minnesota to have all that here at one time, and everyone did a great job handling it.
And the one thing about St. Louis in '87, we got kicked out. We got banned from the locker room because we went on the air before the network, and our punishment was they yanked our credential for a night. I knew a scalper out there. And I got a hold of this scalper and bought 2 tickets for Kessler and I. And Kessler and I got in the game to cover the game. And our sports department was stuck outside watching the game on a Watchman.
Yes.
So 87, the last game of the World Series,
you were at that.
Was my first day on the street.
Is that right?
As a photographer. I was an apprentice.
Wow.
And they sent me down there just to see what you can get. And I heard the rumbling inside the dome, and I thought, he must have won. And so the people came out, and I started rolling, and I turned on this gigantic sun gun light, and people just went absolutely crazy. I created a moment, is what I did. But guess what? My first shot that I ever shot as a CCO photojournalist was on the network news that night.
Nice.
How lucky is that?
Felt pretty good about that.
Oh, wow, I was pretty excited.
I mean, the Minnesota Twins, you mentioned, the World Series.
They sent me to Atlanta for the World Series in '91. I was like,
and I was
really? You want me?
And I was in St. Louis for the World Series. But here's the thing. What made me realize that we are a community, not just at CCO, but here in Minnesota, is that the 7th game of the World Series, 1987, we were covering the celebration. The Twins win. Nobody could believe it. And I'm going to do a live shot outside the Metrodome. Everybody hated the Metrodome. And suddenly, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people are in downtown Minneapolis. I'm doing a live shot on top of the truck. And I don't remember if you were with me. It was so crazy. But they're rocking the truck back and forth. So my live shot, I'm on TV, and here's what it looks like. Like this. But it was joyous, it was exciting, people were thrilled.
I jumped to one that we've talked about a lot. Mike, you were here with me for this in 2010 when the dome collapsed.
Minnesota bore the brunt of this nasty weather system, with some spots getting 16 inches of snow.
That's how people remember that storm. And I remember we were forecasting it, and you guys know, to forecast snow totals between 15 and 20 inches is ludicrous and seems risky because that's a lot of snow. And every model run that came in, it kept confirming more and more we were going to get thumped. And we did. And I remember we came in on a Saturday. It was 17.1 inches of snow. The dome collapsed. I remember driving home because we were basically almost covering it like tornadoes. It was wall to wall because it was such a massive storm.
I woke up that Sunday morning after the snow had ended, did this, looked out my window, and it just, something wasn't right. And then I realized, oh, the Metrodome isn't there anymore. Like, the dome is not up anymore. And it was so out of context, so outrageous to think about. My brain did not make that connection for a good 5 to 10 seconds.
Yeah, and the imagery of that thing deflated. And then, of course, we had that inside camera where we all saw it spilling out was unbelievable that it could do that to a structure.
The waters came so fast, the flood fighters didn't have time to get equipment out. What chance did the people have?
1997 was the year of the floods, when Grand Forks was just devastated. You know, we spent weeks and weeks and weeks up there. I bet half the staff moved up to Grand Forks to cover that story. And then we went back year after year after year to see the rebuilding process.
And how surreal was it to see downtown Grand Forks on fire during a flood? I still
standing in
I'll
water.
Never forget that.
And so no-name stakes became what we lived on, because we had Gary Kroger's RV up there, and he had a little propane grill, and so we could cook right there. So it was something that we could eat off the grill.
That is where the WCCO helicopter made its bones. The best tool we ever had, and I don't know if you've talked enough about the helicopter, but it was a star. It made its day there.
I had my ball glove with me. We didn't have time enough to set up microwave between the ship and the uplink truck. So Captain Dale would shoot the aerials and then would hover over where we would be stationed and drop the tape, and I would catch it in my ball glove and then run back, and we would hot roll it. We played it sight unseen, and then of course Shelby is there anchoring, and he can't see it, so I am giving him the play-by-play description of what I'm seeing on the aerials into his ear, and then he's reciting it like he's seeing the tape, and you can see the smoke, and you can see the fire truck, and blah, blah, blah. It was pretty magical.
We would land in the middle of a farm field or land at a school in a school parking lot. And those were advances in covering the news from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s.
We can't talk about WCCO without Captain Dale Dobish. And that helicopter was a game changer. You know, to be able to fly all over and land. And then he was a rock star. Right. You know, I said my kid's mother, only reason she went with me because I got her a ride in the helicopter. Okay, that was a Playboy move there. You know?
I don't know if you were around, but apparently we did this was before my time. We had done a political convention, a state one, from Duluth. Mm-hmm. I was not here then, but apparently what they had to do was take the truck, shoot it up to the chopper, which was probably hovering around Hinckley or something, and shoot it back to Minneapolis. That predated satellite.
In 1962, CCO made television history with the world's first ever satellite live shot.
And now we don't do that quite so much because of the new technology that we're able to transmit video, audio so quickly.
So what used to be, she's got to get more than a shot. That was then, and so this is now. So this and my Subaru, and I'm good to go do a network broadcast.
Anywhere in the country.
Anywhere in the country where there's decent cell service. And just me and the reporter. Right. I don't need this huge truck, which was smaller than the other ones. But I still kind of get a little misty missing that. But on the other hand, this is good for my shoulder.
Can I say one thing about, because it has to do with Dave and the photographers at WCCO, because back in the day, I mean, the equipment we had to pack and carry, and but I would never carry anything.
No,
would I?
well,
No, I would.
No, I will be. Let's keep the record straight. Yeah. We purposely never made you carry equipment.
Let's just see now what else goes into a television program.
Help the viewers understand how technology has changed, because I mean there's some dramatic changes from when you guys started.
Well, I started before she did. I'm ancient, but I started my career when it was still black and white film. And
film people who don't know what film is?
Let me stop you there before you go on. Explain to people, you literally go out with a film camera, you'd have to come back and process the film.
Develop it, yeah.
Correct.
Dave Cheney started out as a sound guy.
Speaking of
legends.
Another legend at WCCO.
Yeah, and he was the sound operator, so you had someone to control the sound levels, and then the photographer was taking the pictures, the video or film, whatever. And then a reporter. So usually, three-person crews. We had typewriters. We did not have laptops yet. The computer hadn't been invented. We didn't have cell phones yet. When the cell phones first came out, it was probably in the early 90s when we got our first cell phones. But they were
phones or no?
They were
no,
huge.
It was
They were like
huge.
bricks.
What this thing has changed, the quality is as good as any of these cameras in front of us.
For television, the facilities are there, but it's the staff which makes the news operation a success. The combined news, public affairs, and sports staff at WCCO Television currently numbers 36. 8 reporters are responsible for 6 newscasts a day. The emphasis is on visual presentation of the news, accounting for 13 cameramen on the staff, working 6 overlapping shifts.
So what was your deadline then? Because you had to get done a lot early.
Same, never changed.
It never changed?
No.
You're kidding?
No.
It was that, so everybody operated that quickly?
Yeah, 6 and 10, or 6 and 11.
Wow.
They were always the same. We didn't have the plethora of shows we have today.
And so the equipment has become smaller.
It is smaller. Run laptops instead of these big boxes full of stuff.
And it's not analog, and we have digital equipment now, and we can stream. We can do all of the stuff.
Joe, you've been through all of that.
you know what?
Non-linear editing. The way things have gone, they've just moved in that direction.
As much change as we've gone through with the technology, the job is still exactly what it was back then. I mean, we are going out and collecting information and telling people stories. It's still the same. That's why I love it. Yeah. I mean, that's why because it's just such an interesting job. You get to meet interesting people, and yeah, you'll run into people on their worst day, but sometimes you run into people on their best day.
And good evening and welcome to our annual Vikings Training Camp Special, live from Minnesota State University in Mankato.
You go to Vikings camp, you go to Twins spring training, you go to a big story, you have a whole parking lot full of satellite trucks. And then suddenly we got these little things called Live View. It's a little box. I was like, I don't understand the concept of this thing. It's just, and somebody told me, well, it's like a cell phone.
Yeah.
You'll send a picture back.
Now it works, Mark.
So the first time we used it, we went to spring training, just you and I.
Oh, I remember this.
I do
21 live shots we did. 17 of them crashed.
I remember because I was sitting on the desk. It was, hey, we don't know if we're going to be able to get, and all of a sudden the rain would come and you guys would be out.
Yeah, we have a cloud go by and we'd be out.
Yeah. So those are some of the advances that we've seen, and now we have more resources now, I think, than we've ever had to collect news, verify it, and give it to our viewers.
And also the viewers have resources that they can give us in a way that,
that's
that
a
really
good
is,
point,
that has been transformational, because not only we're telling their stories, but they're helping us tell their stories by giving us, everybody's got a camera, everybody's got, video these days.
How can you find this new way to watch? How can you never miss the good question again, you ask?
Good question. Here's Heather Brown.
It's called CBSN Minnesota. It's free, and we have more than a few options to get you there.
And now to the latest from the live desk streaming on CBS News Minnesota. Maria Lizignoli has been sharing updates throughout the day.
I think one of the big things, and I'm not going to speak for AJ, but I'm guessing he would agree, is one of the biggest changes in technology is streaming.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
And so our show now it's 5 hours long. Mm-hmm. When we started, you got your news ready for the 5 p.m. show, the 6 p.m. show, the 10 p.m. show. Right. Now you are all the time.
Also kind of segues into the weather conditions that we had to deal with that technology, because many times you weren't sure if the equipment would work. And I think back to our times, in particular, doing live shots, half-hour shows outside of Lambeau Field on a Saturday night when the wind chill was probably 25 or 30 below, and you can't feel your face. I mean, it's frozen and your hands are frozen, but more importantly, the equipment, and whether it be Art Phillips or yourself, the generator would go out.
Did anybody here start their career early enough, and I think the answer is no, to have to use like stickers or magnet? Yep. Did you really?
Yep.
Okay.
Who's the old fart? Right here.
I thought you were going to say a chisel and a rock. I'm like, okay.
No,
yeah.
They were very nice magnetic symbols that I put up on the board. Just as I was still in college at Penn State, and I was doing weekend weather at WNEP, and they had the whole outdoor set. Yeah, they're great. But yeah, I did that for about 6 months. The heavy showers and thunderstorms well to our east, and then they said, we're going to investigate computer graphics. And if you, I don't know if I have any tapes. The original computer graphics were so crude.
Yes.
I mean, talk about a bad video game. But you could kind of see where it was going, and it has taken off, and you guys are working with amazing technology every day.
We are. We're fortunate in this business, but also at this company that we're given, I mean, I'll call them toys, but they really are tools.
Yeah, yeah. I call it the Bat Cave a lot, you know, and I love loading up the cave with the boat, the plane, all that stuff, because ultimately, yes, to us they're toys, but they help us prepare a better forecast, a more accurate forecast, which helps our viewers be prepared.
Only on CCL. There's certain things that we do special in the community. The special community counts on to see us.
Home for the holidays.
Perfect. Love it. Yeah.
I was just going to say, home for the holidays.
Here at Target Field for our winter salute.
I'll tell you what, it's been an incredible day so far here for the winter salute. It is packed in here.
Home for the holidays is one of the best things that we do all year long. Bringing the veterans in, the stories that they share with us, they share with you. I love it.
Good seeing you, brother.
He shows so much pride in telling that story right.
Not only can you do anything, but we will do anything.
Veteran stories are crucial, especially for the younger generation. They need to know the sacrifices veterans and their families make.
But it also goes to show that, again, this goes back to feeling comfortable with someone and knowing someone. They feel comfortable with Reg to share their story with Reg because they see Reg is a member of this community. Reg is invested in this community, and we can trust him. People can trust people here at this station.
Why are some maple trees not dropping seeds? Good question.
Some of our branded things, some of the things that are important to us, some of the things that separate us because it's a really competitive market.
Well, on air, I would say GQ.
Good question.
Good question, right.
Reality check with Pat Kessler was a big deal.
That was big.
Is it a thing against pants?
Yes, I hate pants.
And what's your good question? I would like to know what the actual cost, electrical-wise, for the whole fair.
What is hockey smell?
These questions are from our viewers.
That's great. Good job, viewers.
Jeff Cunanan invited me into his office. He was our news director. He says, I want you and Ben Tracy to come up with a franchise. And I go, well, what are the parameters? He said, give our viewers a reason to watch the 10 o'clock news.
Kind of a big ask.
And so Ben and I put our heads together, and they gave us a couple weeks to come up with a pilot. And I still remember we were at the 8th Street Saloon, having a beer, kind of mulling over some ideas, and I was watching people play this electronic trivia game at the bar. And that kind of got the wheels clicking, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, people love trivia, and at that time we had just kind of kicked off our website, and we were trying to drive people to the website. And so I thought, what if we answered people's questions?
Who is that guy jumping on and off that giant G in your commercials? Well, that guy is actually the guy behind the camera here. His name is Joe Berglove, and Joe shoots all of the good question stories.
So would you rather be a donkey or an elephant? So many car wash extras. Are they worth the money? Good question.
Why do we pay the tab every year? Good question.
What happens when food or liquid enters our lungs? Good question.
When is rush hour these days? Good question.
And that was how the good question was born.
I'll be darned. I'd never heard that story.
And it was, what
Almost
an
20 years
opportunity!
ago now.
What an opportunity
Joe has
in this
been out there.
business to get a blank slate like that, and to be lucky enough that those people were playing trivia at the bar, and that's how it was born.
Wow!
I hung up my question mark a few years back to give someone else a chance, but
franchise. I really think franchises are really also another thing with CCO that makes it special. I mean, Bill, you did Finding Minnesota before I did. I mean, talk about. I love the state, and I grew up here, and I love highlighting rural Minnesota, especially. And you talk about it because you were doing it before I was.
Well, I was, but I'm kind of embarrassed to say I don't remember how it started. And that's one of the great things about old age is you get
take a pass on it.
Yeah, take a pass. I can't remember. Then, piece by piece, carefully riveted to the ribs, forming the craft's hull. It is slow, tedious work, but he'd have it no other way. I think I inherited it from somebody, Ben maybe?
Might have been Ben Tracy.
Well, Ben and I did the first few of them.
Did you?
Finding
Okay, and then
Minnesota.
Bill took over.
And then I took over. But the whole crux of it is, yeah, we live in this wonderful state, surrounded by beauty and recreation and opportunity and characters and craftspeople. And we get to go out and find those stories, and I mean, it's a win-win.
Much of what you see in this museum was built well over a century ago, including this passenger car, which was built in 1898.
They'll catch a glimpse of the St. Croix Valley. Very few love stories are made with the help of ghosts and goblins.
People think you have to travel. I have traveled to Bosnia, to Africa, to Saudi Arabia. But some of my favorite stories are the farm stories that I'm doing last week with John Lawrenson. You know, it's just, I love being out with the people.
Also finding Minnesota, like we talked about John Lawrenson.
Going to the lake.
Going to the lake.
Why wasn't the fisherman in the movie? He wasn't cast.
Okay.
Never leave a putt short, Tom Watson.
Like those are, but those are quintessential experiences
Yes.
that it feels like CCO does, and they do them so well because they realize this is important to our community. We want to represent all four corners of our state, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And I like to think that with some of our reporting, we've done that, which is a lot of fun to see.
They show that we're regular people and we're part of the community.
The one thing that has absolutely been a pleasure for me, and I really do mean this, is I've had a chance to watch all of the photographers at work. What this does is they get cut loose. It's for what they're not there's no script. They put it together how they put it together. That's not, as everybody knows, that's not how it usually goes. But to watch them put it together and enjoy it and be laughing and chuckling while they do it, which is kind of weird in itself, but it's that and the people that come out, because you're in a town and you're not there for something bad. And for the public to see, you know, Frank, Amelia, Chris, and so on and so forth, they like seeing them up close. It's not the state fair, but it's better. We're coming to them.
Was the I-Team one of the first local investigative units in the country?
Yes.
Or, yeah. Was it the first, or?
There was one in Boston.
Okay.
But we were the second, and then the investigative reporters and editors conferences, we attended 3 a year, and it was fun. You walk in the room and it was like the waters would part. Here comes CCO.
Yeah.
Here they come. Here comes the I-Team. Because, you know, we're carrying all these awards. We're not physically
Well,
carrying
CCO
them.
definitely has a national reputation.
If you love him and you care about that person, you're going to feel something.
Well, I think we've revived it quite a bit, you know, with Jennifer and other reporters to get back to the I-Team roots.
Yes,
because the I-Team
we
was
are.
such an important deal and really separated us.
Photojournalist Grant Verdon and I set out to share the stories that haven't been told.
And I'm glad we're heading back that direction again. It's important for the community.
So I started in 1986. I walked in as an intern. I was at Hamlin, a junior in college. Right. And I remember walking in the door, and I remember, you know, it was Mark Rosen, Ralph John Fritz, and Tom Hanneman.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good threesome. I remember the first day I came in, and it's lights action camera, and I'm going, after about 3 days, I'm going, this is really cool. Yeah. It's constant action. You know, there's a teamwork component to it. You can see that's got to come together. And I remember thinking, God, I got to figure out a way to get into this because this is really cool.
Some of the attraction was, well, it had Dave Moore, and it had Bud Creeling, and it had Ralph John, and Al Austin, and Larry Schmidt, and Skip Loescher, and guys that, as a kid, I watched growing up, and now I'm working with them. I mean, there's a pinch me moment right there. Plus, all of CBS News was the CCO alumni. I mean, you couldn't watch the Cronkite Show and not see two guys who used to work at CBS or at WCCO.
What really made me feel good was you people being here.
The legacy that this station has. I mean, how many people come up to you and say, I used to watch when Dave Moore, do you
All the
remember
time.
Dave Moore? And Yes.
Don Shelby.
Right, and sadly I never had the opportunity to meet Dave Moore, but I will tell you, he still looms large as a presence.
I think the influence of Dave Moore on this newsroom lasts today, because I know the story has been told before, but Dave Moore, the most recognized, popular human being in Minnesota. The closest thing we have to a celebrity, that when a intern from the U or from St. Thomas or someplace would walk in and huddle and try to hide, Dave's radar immediately picked that person up. And he'd get up out of his chair and amble over and extend his hand and say, "Welcome, my name's Dave Moore." Like he had to tell this person what his name was. And I'm Dave Moore. I sit right over here. And if you ever have any questions or anything, just come over and ask me.
I'm rolling down, pushing 43 years, but I still remember my first hour like it was yesterday. I come in, I'm 21 years old, they introduce me to Dave Moore. I say, "Hi, Dave Moore." Dave Moore walks off. 20 minutes later, Dave Moore walks in the edit room and he calls me by name and says, "Brad, can you help me edit this?" I'm like, yeah, Dave, I can. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Dave Moore knew me by first name within the first hour of working there.
And when Dave retired, I thought, we can't lose that. Yeah. We can't lose that. And so I didn't so much want to be, I wanted to inherit that piece. I wanted to inherit that. That's besides all the great times and wonderful things that Dave taught me. He taught me most about trying to keep that family atmosphere.
And I think you did a really good job. I think that's what our newsroom is like to this day.
Yeah, it's an important piece of the culture. I don't think I really refer to anybody, and this goes from people on camera, behind the camera, as my coworkers. They're my friends.
We've been doing this for decades, you and I. So have you. I mean, all of us, and all of us become a family because we spend more time with each other than we do generally with our families.
Right.
I spent more time with my coworkers at WCCO television than I did with my own family.
I always thought like every day takes forever, but the years have passed because we've had some long days together.
Oh yeah, a lot of long days together, a lot of long years together, but we made it through, and I couldn't be happier.
Well, and one more thing too, for some of us, we didn't grow up with the CCO legacy. You know, we're not from here. But there's a whole lot of us that have been here before, that are here now, and that'll still come.
Yep.
And they come here and they stay.
Yep.
And it used to be that you had to wait for somebody to drop dead before you could get a job opening. Because people came here to die, for lack of a better way of putting it.
You know, Joe, you're getting close, I know, to retiring, and Bill, you are retired, and you guys always worked hard. But Joe, what would you say about like just the newsroom in general and the people you meet and you get to know?
I mean, this place is my second home, WCCO. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you guys are both like brothers to me. Step brothers, maybe.
Yeah.
But
I'll take it.
And the genius was the people that we hired to anchor and report the news and to cover it with videotape, our photographers, that we can't forget. We were looking not only for skill and talent, we were looking for the kind of human being who would fit in a family.
You liked the people, and it was like a family. And so I always wondered if that was why I stayed in it, because I happened to come to the right station by fate or whatever.
You mentioned family, and that's one thing that I think we can all agree on, is that CCO is like a family. There are lots of great workplaces.
When I would go out in public after the show, many times people would say, "Hey, do you and Don really get along? Do you and Amelia?" I mean, it looks like the chemistry is almost genuine. You almost look sincere, and I'm like, you can't fake that.
Our anchor team was assembled in one of our big meeting rooms because there was a person with a briefcase from out of town who was going to come in because we had been ranked as the best anchor team for conveying to an audience friendship and how we got along, because the truth is a lot of stations, they don't get along. The people don't get along. They despise each other, but they want to know why. What are you guys doing? So open up the briefcase and he said, oh, how do you make it seem that you like each other? It's a serious question, he says, because that's what he has to go home and report, because he's going to do whatever we're doing at other stations he's advising. And we said, well, we do like each other. We go to each other's houses. We know the children's names. We go to their sporting events. We spend Thanksgiving sometimes together. We buy each other Christmas presents. We like each other. And the dude does this. Picks up the thing and walks out. Because you can't replicate that.
And I think it's not only the technology, the budgets, the dedication to solid journalism, but getting the right people in place. And sometimes it can be magic when you get people together that genuinely like each other, and that shows on the air. Viewers seem to like that, hey, they all kind of get along.
Yeah.
And so the history, the legacy of WCCO, it doesn't get any more Minnesotan than that.
Agreed.
And so, you know, I'm proud to have been a very small part and to have had a chance to work here, and I have no regrets.
I'm proud I get to ride both of your coattails because the lineage here is that when Paul left, Chris took over for Paul, and then I took over for Chris. So there is really a through line here, and both of you have been so kind to me and so helpful to me. We all knew the science, you learn that in school, but what you don't know about when you move to a new city is everything from something simple like how to pronounce town names to what is the culture like, what do people value.
It's been a great place to work, and it's been such a privilege to go into the situations that I've gone into for so many years with the photojournalists. It's really been amazing. And it's a chance. That's what's so great about this job and great about CCO is that you do get into the door and you get inside people's lives and you're able to share them, and it's really been amazing.
There's a lot of responsibility. We're trying our best, Dad.
I know that.
We're trying our best.
You're doing wonderfully.
And this is our community, and this is where we live, and we care about it.
We care. We're invested.
You're raising your kids here.
Yeah, yeah.
You're going on vacation.
We see. I mean, the same things that are impacting viewers are impacting us, right? Because we're people too. Yeah. You know, it just so happens that this is our job.
Right.
Pull out your crystal ball. What do the next 75 years hold for WCCO?
Whew. I mean, I hope greatness still.
I'd do it all again.
Yeah.
All right.
Do we need cutaways?
Sometimes you gotta. We'll tell you the stories that can't be told.
They were great.
That's it, I guess. Thank you guys for being here.
Oh man, it was a pleasure.
Oh, we didn't even get to a lot of the good stuff.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it's been a really good ride.
It has been. Yep. Good talk, fellas. Like I said, we'll do it again in 75 years, right?
Okay. I'll only be, I don't know, 190, something like that.
Now it's nap time.
Well, we got to wrap it up. So thanks, guys. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. Keep it going. Good. Should we roll tape now?
Yeah. Yeah, right?
That's Lewis's joke.
Never gets old.
We hope you've enjoyed our look back at 75 years of WCCO television and look forward to whatever the next 75 years brings.
To see more of these moments and additional interviews, visit WCCO.com/75.